don't matter what your name is, share your story. We'll be waiting for the haters, whoa.
Welcome back, everyone, to For the Haters podcast. Today's episode is a deeply moving story of love, loss, and resilience. Our guest, Crystal, was just 15 years old when she found stability in her high school sweetheart. His name was Jake, and he wasn't just her first love. He was her safe place, the person who saw her struggles and made sure she didn't have to go through them alone. At 18, they married, and by 19, they were starting their life together until everything changed. Jake was killed in Afghanistan just 2 months after they had finally begun their forever. Crystal's journey with grief and healing has led her to her career in social work, where she now helps others navigate pain and loss. Today, she's sharing her story, not just about Jake's life and legacy, but about how we process grief, expand our emotional resilience, and find purpose after unimaginable loss. This story is of heartbreak, strength, and the power of healing. Let's get into it. Hello, Crystal.
Hello.
Welcome to For the Haters.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, and thanks for traveling all the way down from Michigan to come spend the weekend. You've been out in the Poconos doing all the things in the area.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Can you just start out by sharing a little bit about yourself and just life, like growing up? What was growing up like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely chaotic, to say the least. I grew up... So my family, how do I put this? So I grew up in Detroit, which already, like, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
But my parents, when they had me, they essentially met in AA. So I don't know if you know about AA and how you're not really supposed to have relationships within the first year or so, until at least you have, I think, a sponsor is how it goes. And so when my parents met in AA, they were going through a lot of things individually within themselves as well. So my mom, just to kind of give a little bit of a backstory, my mom was born with fetal alcohol syndrome. My mom actually was born with no nose, cleft palate, no cleft palate, and then some like inner ear issues. So back in the 50s, that's when my mom was born. And so they really didn't have the same technology that they have today, where, babies can get, that recover a lot faster. You don't have to have a lot of surgeries. And so with that being said, she experienced a lot from the time she was born up until, she had me, my brother, and so she was coming into it with a lot of trauma, a lot of things, how she grew up. And then on top of that, the things that she had to overcome. And then my dad was adopted. And so my grandparents adopted my dad. And when I say grandparents, I just mean not really my blood grandparents, but for all intents purposes, who I thought was my grandparents were my grandparents. So the story goes that my dad and his twin brother were one of like 8.
Oh, wow.
And they were born on an Indian reservation up in Canada. And my grandparents they were foster parents. They were searching high and low for, the right child to come into their family. And it just so happened to be my dad and my uncle. And it was just really, when I kind of look back at this, just that alone, it's powerful for me to understand like where I come from, where like I don't necessarily have a point of origin of where I come from on my dad's side. So going through that alone is like pretty traumatic as far as wondering who you are, who your family is, what kind of maybe like diseases might be, you know, in your family, those types of things. And so,
Did you always know your dad was adopted?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And, you know, but I remember as a child, like my grandparents never making it feel like, you know, oh, you're not really my family type of thing. They were always very, you know, loving, compassionate. And then, you know, they took me in when I was 8 years old. So, which I will get to in a minute here, but, you know, just kind of giving a little bit of a precursor of my life previously before Jake. And, you know, I believe I stayed with my parents until I was about maybe 2 or 3. Don't really have a memory of you know, when I was that young.
Yeah.
But from the stories that I get from everybody else, it was very tumultuous. Both my parents were in, you know, kind of an alcoholic
Just
cycle
Yeah.
essentially with themselves. And so it was really difficult, I think, for them to manage one kid, let alone 2 kids. I was kind of like more of the surprise kid, like, surprise, you're here, yay.
So your brother's older?
My brother is older, yeah.
Okay.
He's 4 years older than me, which is another interesting thing in itself. It's just another interesting layer of the conversation, because my brother, being 4 years older, he has like different memories with my parents than I do. He, you know, will always tell me, oh yeah, like dad played with us all the time. Or like mom took us, you know, I remember mom taking me to this place or that place. And those aren't my memories, like, at all. I don't have any memories like that. And so it's just very interesting to see the difference that just like 4 years makes for a child.
I go through that with my siblings as well. We'll have like conversations over holidays just about our parents and like growing up, and all of our realities were different. All of our remembrance of like how we were treated or how we lived were all like in our own separate worlds. That's very interesting.
It's so interesting to when you sit back and you really think about it from a perspective of, you know, a therapeutic perspective. You know, it's like that older child syndrome, right? Where it's like the protector. And so like my brother always grew up as like the protector of me, or always doing things for other people. Whereas me, I'm the baby of the family at that point in time, you know? And so it's one of those things where it's like you as the baby of the family, it's like you're the wild card, you know? You're just like out doing whatever and wherever type of thing. And like you just kind of like walk to the beat of your own drum type of situation. And so it's very interesting how we fall into like our different little cycles, or who we are in our families.
Yeah, I'm the youngest of 5, so I can relate, just walking to my own beat as the youngest. So.
Absolutely.
So you're 2, right? And so what's life like with that? You're moving with your grandparents. Is it you and your brother?
No. So I guess I'll go back just a little bit. So when I was about 4 years old, we, my grandmother, this is something I didn't know about until I was much older, but, my grandmother was very concerned about the treatment that we were receiving, just neglect, all of, you know, unclean clothes, things like that. They would send, you know, us over to my grandparents' house, and there would be just like dirty diapers and just like not very clean, or very neglectful behavior. And so with that, my grandmother was very concerned, and so she called CPS, and CPS came out. They did a whole investigation. They like removed us from the house, and we were put in foster care. So my brother was separate. They separated us. So my brother was you know, in one house, and I was in another house. Still can't eat oatmeal to this day because of it. Like,
Yeah.
it's
I mean, that's
it's
a story in
core
itself,
memory.
right? Like just growing up in in foster care?
It's core memory, man. It's
Yeah.
just like oatmeal grosses me out now. But you know, it's one of those things where you have all of these things, and you'll see as I tell my story. But like, you have all of these things, and when you go back and talk to them, and like you talk to somebody else about them, and they're like, "Wow, like that's crazy," or "That's crazy," or like, "I can't believe you've been through that," and I'm just like, I don't even think anything of it like that. You know,
Like, it was
I just
just my
think
life.
it's just
Yeah.
my life and stuff. So, but you know, when I was 4, I was in foster care for a little bit, and then my aunt actually decided. So my mom's sister, my mom is one of 5, and so she has twin sisters. Twins run in my family, woohoo! Like, yay for me later on, you know, when we have kids. But so my aunt took us in, and so my uncle and my aunt, I was living with them for about 4 years or so.
Oh, wow,
and
long
that
time.
was and that was at like the time where I was so I don't remember this, so I can't really speak to it in full effect. It's more so a story that I've just been told. But the reason why there was just a foster case against, and I was like, me and my brother were removed, was because there was some, sexual assault things going on between like me and my father. And, you know, there's some, I guess really like dark and twisted things that were kind of going on. That's just been something that I personally don't have a recollection or a memory of, like because I was so young. So when I was 4, between the ages of 4 and 8, I was just like this they called me Crystal the Pistol, right? Because like, I just did not give an F, like very, very unruly type of child. I was always crying. I was always, that sort of thing. And when I look back on it now, like as an adult who works with parents and their children, like I completely understand it. As someone who, it's the complete way that a child who was sexually assaulted would act. So it just like, my family didn't really have the tools that they needed at that time to really like take care of it. And therapy wasn't like a thing. It wasn't like trending on Instagram.
Yeah,
like
and resources weren't just like readily available by internet search.
Right. Yeah. Like we didn't have internet or computers at that time. This is the 90s. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's a different time back then.
Yeah.
And so, I can see now where like my uncle and my aunt would get like really upset, especially my uncle, very physically upset. Never in an assaultive type of way, but in a more of like a control kind of scary type of way, at least for a 6-7-year-old, right? So, and of course when you have like, adults yelling at you or, disciplining you, and you have had no discipline previously, it's quite a shock. And so it was a hard situation, I think, for all. And so my aunt ended up getting a divorce from my uncle. She had a lot of things going on in her life, so she could no longer take care of me. And she, called up my grandparents and was like, hey, listen, I just can no longer do this. And I think, somebody, in the family kind of just needs to step up. And, my grandparents were happy to do that. And so I moved in with my grandparents when I was in 2nd grade. So
through all this,
into
are
3rd
your
grade.
parents still around? Like, do you still see them? Does your family still talk to them?
So my dad was not really around at all. I do not have any memory of him when I was younger. And then my my mom, I do have, so she's the type of mom, and you'll see it become very apparent as I tell my story, but she's the type of mom who is very physically there, but just not really emotionally there, whether for like her own like shortcomings or whatever that kind of entails, all the trauma that she went through as well. I'm sure that, it kind of stunts the way that you maybe relate to your own children and whatnot. And so, yeah, it was just a very difficult situation to like, I think, be in as a child in general.
It's and obviously we're gonna talk more about everything, but just something that I'm sitting here and realizing is that in the way that you speak about these people, it seems like there's a lot of compassion and like grace for who they are and the decisions that they made. Even like your aunt having to make that decision of asking for help that she can no longer take care of you. There seems like there's a lot of like grace in just of how you're speaking to that, right? Because for a lot of people, it could have been like anger, right? Like, why did she give me, like, why couldn't she keep me and take care of me? Maybe it's just like your profession, like you're trained to think about someone else's world outside of yourself. So it's just something that I've noticed in the conversation so far, which is interesting because a lot of people I've had on the podcast, there is a common theme of just like forgiveness and that kind of approach that has helped them heal, right? Like from all of these painful parts of what people have done to them.
Yeah. And that's interesting because that you're getting that, because it's not how it started. It started with a lot of anger and a lot of hurt and a lot of disconnection. A lot of really wondering, like, why me, or what's wrong with me, kind of taking it inward and being really like this is on my shoulders. I have to bring my family back together type of situation, or I have to make my parents, better. I think there's a level of that, right? And I mean, I hope it's okay that I can mention this, but whenever I've listened to like Kale talk about her mom and like how she had to deal with all of the things that she was dealing with, it come like that it's I always think about it from my perspective of like, and I just lost my train of thought, which was going to be so good, but oh my gosh. But like, I always think about it from like, we show compassion to the people that most need it at the time that they need it. But we also, it doesn't start off like that, right? It's not like, I think we just kind of grow and learn.
I mean, it's a part of the healing process for ourselves, right? Like we can't carry that weight of being angry, and carrying that hate is just so much. Like you are carrying it and no one else is, right?
Yeah, and I had to really wake up and understand that. And as I'll talk about later on, but that's what Jake really taught me how to do. And so I living with my grandparents was really the most security that I ever had in my entire life. And so it really brought this level of like I could just focus on what I needed to focus on. And I didn't have the maturity at that time, right? I'm 8, 9, 10, 11, all the way up to 14 years old. And I look back and like I almost wish that I would have had that insight that I do now, because it would have been so different. Like I would have just been like, I would have rocked the whole thing, Whereas like, I didn't have that though. I was really,
you
really
were a child
struggling. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I was just struggling, struggling to understand myself, struggling to understand my family, what was going on with that, the stories that have been either fed to me or not fed, what I believe versus what's true. That's a whole nother conversation in itself, because as a child, you have, you love your parents. You want them, you just have this compassion and this love, and you just want things to be like how you see other families and other kids having them. And so I always remember being like, why can't I be, with my parents? Like, it's fine. Everything's fine. I will, get through it. But I just want to be with them. And my grandparents, wonderful, amazing people who took me in, it's kind of like, it's very difficult as a child to think about it like, as a parent, and because I know so much about, like, because this is what I do in my normal therapy business essentially, and so I always think about it again with that compassionate lens, or that very like my
empathetic.
heart is here, very
Yeah.
empathetic type of feeling. And so it's one of those things where I just wish I had the insight that I did. That's basically it, honestly. It really, that's what it boils down to, because if I did, I feel like there would have been a lot of things that I would have changed about, like, me trying better in school, me having more friends. Like, I was a very like alone type of child, just very disconnected from a lot of people. Didn't really have a lot of friends.
Yeah.
Maybe I had like one or two, but they were never like very close to me. And so, let me put it this way. So like when you're a child or when you have friends, all you want to do is be accepted. And so I just never felt that exception. And it wasn't necessarily, I mean, obviously I would learn later on that, it's more so as an adult, you learn that, like, I don't care if anyone accepts me. I don't care if anyone, like, love me or hate me. It's fine. Like, either way, but, as a child, you don't feel like that. You feel very alone, and you feel very like, why am I so different? What's wrong with me? And you don't think about it from a spiritual point either. Like, it's not like I'm thinking it, as a 12, 13-year-old, you're thinking, it's the way God made me, or whatever, And so it's like, with like thinking about all of the things that I had been through at that time was something that, like, I was very disconnected from. Like, and as I would, with all that I know today, it's kind of hard to almost talk about. Not from a point of like feeling wise, like I don't have like any sort, I've healed from it, right? But before, like, while I was in the situation, I was super disconnected from it. Like, I didn't even, I had no idea what my feelings were about it. All I knew is that I wanted to be with my family.
Yeah.
Like my parents and my brother. And I was luckily, my grandparents were amazing people. And so they, would foster that relationship with my brother. So my brother was actually went to go live with my aunt. So as I mentioned before, my mom is one of 5, and so she has 2 twin sisters. And so one of the aunts kind of took me in, then the other aunt took my brother in. My other aunt was kind of able. She was single at the time, but she was able to, take my brother in. And so my brother had a pretty stable life from that, just from being, all the way from the time foster care when he was probably like he's 4 years old, so like 7 at the time, when we were in foster care. And so all the way up until he was, 18. So, I mean, he had real like stability. Whereas for me, with my mom or with my grandparents, when I lived with my grandparents, it was, like I mentioned, the most stability that I had ever had. But at the same time, it was very difficult because my grandparents were in their 70s.
Do you ever have those conversations? Like, have you ever had an adult conversation with your brother about like life growing up, and like, was there any type of I'm sure there was resentment that you had to maybe get over of, why was he able to have that stability and you weren't?
I don't think so, only because, there was conversations, but definitely not about the stability part. I never like took it from that point of view, at least for his sake.
Yeah.
I just noticed it and I was like, oh, that's, nice and wonderful for him. It wasn't.
Did you guys
so
have a
much.
relationship like during your childhood? Like you saw each other, you were around each other?
Yeah. So my grandparents, they always tried to kind of connect us and keep us together. So we would see each other in the summers and things like that when school was out. During school time, it just wasn't very feasible. My grandparents lived, pretty far away, almost 45 minutes away from where my brother lived, and so, my grandpa would come down and try to make that relationship still, for us still to be able to connect. But, it was difficult, I think. If anything, I really looked up to him. Like,
Wow.
and still
Yeah.
to this day, like, I really just looked up to him. He's always cared for me, always, been there for me. And we just kind of know our parents and our upbringing. I don't want to say just because he didn't have stability doesn't mean he didn't go through a lot of crazy things. We actually did have a conversation one time, and I always love having conversations with him about this, about our parents specifically, because we don't talk about it, often, but when we do get into those conversations, I always learn something new about my parents that I never thought about or never knew before. So actually so my birthday was, my 35th birthday was, back in March. It was maybe like 3 weeks ago at this point, 4 weeks.
Happy belated.
Something. Thank you. And so my brother took me out to, lunch, and, we were talking, and one thing got to another, and we started talking about, just our upbringing. And one of the craziest stories that he told me, he just like blurted it out. I was like, I've never heard this story in my life. He literally told me that he's like, one time we were at the old apartment, and because we lived in an apartment like right before like we were put into foster care. We lived in this like 1-bedroom apartment, and my brother, I was a baby, so obviously I have no recollection of this, but my brother said that my dad came home one day and he was just like drunk and whatever. Of course, my brother didn't know that, but like he was drunk, and so he was playing with my brother and all of the things. And then he the next memory that he has of it, which is like the same day or the same night, is my dad was running naked outside of the apartment building, just like running around the entire apartment building, and my mom is trying to like catch him. And so then my brother is literally like thinking it's like this fun game that he's playing. And he literally is like he's like, that's one of the memories that I have of like,
wow,
mom and dad. And I was like, what? Like, that is crazy. Like, where was I? He was like, I don't know, you were probably sleeping or something. I mean, we were so young at the time. I mean, I think at that time he was probably like 3 or 4. Yeah. So I was a baby at that point in time. So it's just one of those conversations. I walked away from it, and I was like, in the moment, I was just like laughing and everything like that. But then I walked away from it, and I was like, wow, I guess I really never realized the true impactful
Yeah, and imagine all that happened that
situation.
neither of you remember, right? Like the things that were going on around you.
Yeah, yeah. And so, the those conversations kind of have been few and far in between. It's just it's not something on a normal basis that we sit and remember or reminisce about, but every so often. And I also think, everybody is on their own journey. And so my brother, he got into therapy a lot later than I did. And he had to work out some other things that were going on with him as well. And so I think that I never, even as a therapist, right? You just never want to rob somebody of having that specific journey of therapy and kind of finding out about themselves and how they feel about the certain things that have happened to them, or even unearthing things that you might have like repressed. And those are some things that he might have repressed that he had no idea until they were like brought up in like this therapeutic conversation. So it may have not even ever occurred to him to really talk about it because he thought like, oh, well, she lived it as well, so she knows everything about it. But like, I think he kind of failed to kind of really understand like the memory of it all. For me personally, like, again, he has a lot more compassion for my mom than I do, even as like an adult. Which I kind of can get into a little bit later about the hard relationship that I have with my mom.
Yeah.
It's a very sometimes tumultuous, sometimes okay relationship.
Yeah. I would love to first just, go through what's next, right? Like you're living with your grandparents and then you meet Jake at 15, right? Is that when you met him?
So my grandparents, so as I mentioned, they were 70, so 70, 75. And so they were in failing health. And so I, as a 14, 15-year-old, was taking care of them. I was missing a lot of school, taking care of them. I would get constant calls that, my grandfather fell and had to go to, the hospital or certain things like that when I would be at school. And so it became a really hard situation for me. Because obviously I have so many wonderful memories with my grandparents. It was a very difficult situation because I wanted to be there to help them, but as well, school was also a priority.
You're still a child too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I kind of understand all of that and what that kind of entails. And so my grandparents were basically like, listen, we can no longer take care of her, but we are guardians of her because I was a ward of the state. So my parents gave up, signed their rights away, all of that stuff. And so they were guardians of me. So they were the ones that could, choose where I would live or whatever. And so I do remember there were a couple times where, they had tried what they call reunification.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't the right time. And then at 14 and 15, when my grandparents got sick, they were like, okay, like for the betterment of Crystal, we have to. There's no other choice that we have. Otherwise, she is just not going to, she's going to get into high school. Maybe she's going to go through, do the, drinking and smoking and all of the things that kids kind of go through at that time. And I did go through that, but it was a little bit less policed, if I will. My grandparents were very strict. They were very like, I wasn't allowed to have anyone over, the house. I wasn't allowed to
Be out.
watch
Yeah.
TV. Like I had to be like outside. It wasn't like, how kids are today where it's like, you're playing video games all day or like being on, having phones and being on the internet all day or whatever. It was, you go outside or like, that's kind of it. And so when I was 15, 16, I went to go live with my mom. And that is when, if you can believe it, more chaos ensued. My mom was in active addiction at that point in time. And so she had her own demons,
Wow.
many times, where she would come home drunk, throwing up, doing all of the things. I can even remember one like story of where I woke up, for school, and I got ready for school, and, my mom wasn't there, whatever, at least that I knew of. And I walk out to go to the bus stop, and my mom is on the front lawn, literally passed out in like her own vomit. And I'm just like, wonderful. Like now I get to, kind of take care of this whole thing. Missed the bus, like, of course couldn't drive at that point in time. So I was like, oh, great. Like, what do I do? Like, and I didn't really have any of that support. So I was like missing a lot of school, when I was in 9th grade. I feel like I still have like little progress reports or like report cards or something. It reads like, it's like all E's and like 1 D. Because like maybe the teacher like felt bad for me or something, I don't know. But like it was because I like had missed so much school, it's like there was just that level of trying to take care of.
You were just trying to survive life.
1,000%. Yeah. And it got really bad as far as with my mom and her addiction. She, she let, I don't know how much you know about alcoholism and, how it takes over people's lives, but it really does. And it really took over her life. She would forget to pay the bills. She would forget to like go, grocery shopping, like just, I can't get into the mind of somebody who is in active addiction like that. I mean, I can like imagine, but I just couldn't even understand why anyone would forget to like go to the grocery store for their child. Like, it's just, I became very, very angry. I became very like disconnected from her. I became just, it was just awful. And she, so, I mean, like I can remember times where I'd like boil water and like to wash my hair because there was no hot water in like the shower, and like, eating like, like marinara sauce and bread for dinner. And like, that's it, because that's all that we had. And I mean, I didn't have a job, I didn't have money coming in at that point in time. And so there was a lot of things that were kind of happening for me. And when I met Jake, I had gone through actually a pretty traumatic thing even before I met Jake, where my mom, we were in treatment together. She was in it was like it was a thing called GrowthWorks essentially. And it was like a family treatment center. And so they would treat everybody individually. And so my mom thought that I was like, smoking weed and, drinking alcohol and all of the things, which I was, but it wasn't out of control by any means. It wasn't like I needed to go to rehab or something. And yet she decided to send me to rehab. She sent me to like an inpatient rehab for 3 months for like drinking alcohol.
And you were 14 or 15?
I was 15 years old.
Wow.
And the reason why I tell you this is because literally the next day after I got out of the treatment center, with actual, people who were addicted to certain things, I remember, and I guess I'm not really telling this story very well, but I remember I had a boyfriend before I went into, so I had a boyfriend before I went into the treatment center, and then, he was writing me, and my mom and this will give you an idea of like how my mom is and who my mom is to like the core. She was giving me all of these letters that he was writing me, and, it was just wonderful, reading them and all of the things. And then to him, apparently she was telling him, like, I never wanted to see him again, like, leave, don't get, stop, be like, whatever, stop, like, influencing my daughter to, smoke weed and to drink and all of the things. And then, so when I came out of rehab, I fully expected to still have a boyfriend. And I learned through some of my friends that I, first of all, no longer had a boyfriend, and he was dating one of my friends. So, and all of my friends that I had at that point in time that I had like really worked hard to like get into at that point in time, get into this group and just, hang out with them and just to relate to other people. They no longer like wanted to talk to me. And so again, like I felt really alone.
Yeah.
And so, something that I worked so hard at to like be accepted and get people to like, love me or whatnot at that point in time, I didn't have that confidence. I didn't have any of that. Like I wanted that like acceptance by others so much. Like I yearned for it. And so it was a really difficult situation for me to like know that like my mom did something like that to me. And I don't think she really understood the magnitude of like what she did. It wasn't necessarily the breaking up of the other boyfriend or whatever it was more about the acceptance of like others. And like, I felt like accepted by them. And so it was really a difficult situation for me personally to kind of go through as a 15-year-old, because that's all what teens and, teens
I mean,
really
I can't imagine even going through that process of being in rehab is easy either as a 15-year-old. Right?
No.
I mean, and especially with all like the past unhealed trauma that I'm sure that you went through. Do you feel like that was a turning point where like healing began, or did that not come till later?
Oh, it did not come till later. That was like right in the midst of all of the turmoil and all of the traumatic like things that I kind of, all the accumulation of everything was just sitting.
Yeah.
It was literally just sitting, like all my feelings, everything was just there. And so the reason why I told that story about me being in rehab is because literally the next night I had asked my mom, I said, hey, my friend, asked me to go play, to go bowling or whatever with them. Am I allowed to go? And she was like, yeah, sure. Like I'll drive you. And you can go hang out with them for about, an hour or two. And I was like, okay, awesome. So then I go, and that's the night I met Jake.
Wow.
And he was also going through his own demons as well. So he had a bottle of Jack Daniels in his bowling bag that he kept on taking like swigs out of and things like that. And so I, of course, he would put it back, and then I would kind of like go like this and be like, and I wasn't being secretive about it or whatever. And that was literally the first night that I met him, and he was like, he's probably thinking like, why does this chick keep taking my Jack Daniels? And like, I don't even know her type of thing. And then if you can believe it, we exchanged AIM usernames because that's what you did back then. Like we didn't exchange like
emails or
emails
phone numbers.
or phone
Yeah.
numbers. It's AIM usernames or whatever. And so we started talking, and I started really like learning a lot about him. And one of the things that, I started to learn is that he was really interested in the military. He was really interested in the Marines. And I thought that was so cool. Like, I was literally like, oh my God, like,
He has
this
goals.
guy. Yeah, exactly. Like, he has goals. He knows what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm drawn to that. Like, I'm drawn to get out of here, essentially. And so he and I would talk back and forth. And I don't know what it is about these guys these days or whatever. I mean, even with my now husband, like, I had to make the first move. Like, I'm like, both of them, they were just like so like nonchalant. And I'm like, are you ever going to ask me out or what?
Yeah.
Like, we've been talking for 2-3 months at this point. Like, are we just friends? Like, what's happening over here? And so it was one of those kind of situations where I had to literally ask him straight up and say, like, hey, listen, like, interested or not, like, type of thing. And he, obviously was like, heck yeah, I'm interested. Like, let's go out on a date. And it kind of just happened. It wasn't necessarily like something back then that you thought about. It's not like it was like, when you're in school, when you're, like a second grader or something, it's like you get a note, check yes or no, like, if you want to be my boyfriend. It was just like we were hanging out and we decided that we, got along really well, and that was the relationship. And so we just said, let's hang out more, type of situation. And so when I met Jake, like, it started off really, really, I mean, just amazing. It was definitely a high school sweetheart situation for sure. We were in all totality together for 6 years at the time, before he passed. But even then, like, he went off to the military. He went to basic training in January of 2007, and he started his career as a Marine. Like, that's all that he ever wanted to do. And so he was like, I'm doing this and that's it. And it's just like, I had to either be ready for it or not. And I was like, you know what? I didn't, at the time, I didn't know all of the, and I mean, even when you're living in the situation as a military wife, you don't really, I think, understand or have the maturity to understand at that point in time, especially at, 16, 17, 18 years old. Like, you don't have any sort of like future in mind, whatever. And so he was in boot camp right around the time that I graduated high school, probably about, I would say 2, maybe 3 months before I graduated high school. And I graduated high school in 2007, sorry. I graduated in it's been a long time, man,
I'm right
like
there
20,
with you.
20 years or something is what it's coming up on. I'm like, geez, I'm freaking old, man. Can't believe I'm here saying 20 years. Like,
It's crazy. Time flies.
and he graduated, or I graduated, and he got out of boot camp. And before I kind of go on with the story, I actually have a letter that I want to read you of something that he sent me in boot camp.
Yeah.
And it's just wacky. And you're going to see why in just a minute.
That's where we're going to leave off on this episode and pause it right there. So you'll have to wait and join us next week for part 2. We'll pick back up right where we left off, so be sure to tune in. Thanks for listening to For the Haters. Don't forget to connect with us on socials, follow, like, and share to help more people find this community. And remember, they're not alone. And if you haven't yet, join our Facebook group. We'd love to have you there. The more we grow, the more lives we can impact.
What's your name and share your story? We'll be waiting.